Hello, and welcome to The Square Window, the podcast that rewinds time to take us back on a nostalgic trip to the golden age of kids' TV shows. I'm Gareth, and I'll be your host. I've been a professional animator for nearly 3 decades and a cartoon fan all my life. My guest on this episode today is Matt Loveridge. Matt is an award-winning composer for children's TV, drama and documentary. Alongside Jim Cornick, he scored Aardman series Lloyd of the Flies and BAFTA-nominated Ready, Eddie, Go for Sky Kids. He's also scored numerous branded projects for Aardman featuring Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep. In a previous life, he was a sound designer and mixer, working on Morph, Very Small Creatures and Moomin Valley. Matt is also the composer of our awesome podcast theme tune, of which I will be eternally grateful. Matt's choice of show today is the iconic British show Rainbow. So join us as we take a trip through the Square Window. Hello, Matt. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
My actual first composer guest. So this is going to be, I'm really looking forward to getting into the theme tune side of this today. The TV show that you've chosen to talk about has been Rainbow. As a man of a certain age, this was iconic. It's right. I've got some notes. It ran from 1972, so 16th of October 1972, until the 6th of March 1992.
But I mean, I think there's the kind of classic era of Rainbow everyone remembers.
Yeah.
We've got your main characters.
That's right.
And you've got your Rod, Jane and Freddie. And then sometimes when you're kind of looking up classic episodes, it's so disconcerting because you can sometimes come across an episode where there's no Jeffrey or Bungle looks completely different, terrifying, dead behind the eyes. Who the hell are you and what have you done with Bungle?
Stuff and nightmares.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was like a follow-up called Rainbow Days that they tried to bring back in the 90s, and it needs to be seen to be believed. Honestly, it's lost. Whoever's they've lost everything about the charm of the show. And the theme tune is not. I mean, I don't know who did it. But it's probably not their fault. They're probably misdirected. But God, yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah. We'll get into the end and the legacy of it down the line. Because it was cancelled, and the public went a little bit mental. They listened to the public, brought it back, but didn't listen to them and brought it back in completely different form. Then they cancelled that, and then they brought it back again, kind of like the old way, but it just didn't go. They were maybe a couple of years too late for it, and it just people lost interest.
No,
We'll hit
exactly.
that in the legacy. So yeah, so I have memories of it playing a lot earlier than, say, your main after school series, TV shows. I don't remember this being an afternoon show, being an after school show. I kind of remember this being mid afternoon. Always remember seeing it if I was off ill.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think. I was born in 1988, so I'm not sure that anyone that I know, of my age, was actually watching Rainbow. And then, when I was thinking what show I'd pick, I thought I'd look up some episodes. Which, by the way, thank you on behalf of my YouTube algorithm, because it's gone absolutely nuts now. Thinking that Rainbow's all I want to watch, which frankly, maybe it is. But I've realised I haven't seen this one. I mean, there's over 1,000 episodes, which brings me to potentially the realisation that I maybe for all of my childhood, watched the same 8 episodes recorded off the telly on
You'd be
VHS
surprised
that
how
my
often that's
parents had done
coming
for
up.
my sister. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't know. I can't remember what time it was on. I think, because there's certain episodes that I must have watched hundreds and hundreds of times, and others
Yeah.
that I haven't seen at all.
Yeah, totally. It's obviously it was skewed to a younger audience than Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. And I seem to remember, I, being a little bit older than you. There were a couple of shows I used to play on that sort of lunchtime. Just before the before the first run of Neighbours, they used to
Yeah.
run like Neighbours in mid-afternoon, and then they repeat it then at like 5:30. And it'd always be surrounded by the news and a couple of kids shows. So there was like a show called You and Me on the BBC, which was almost rainbow-like, but without so many songs, but always like the puppets, and then it would go to like an outside broadcast type thing, and then it'd come back, and Rainbow was of that sort of setup, in that they wanted it to be a little bit like the British version of Sesame Street, where there's a
Yeah.
small community, and then they'd have like a story or a series of disputes between the characters, and then they'd have a little bit of outside broadcast, and they'd have a little bit of song and music, and then they'd solve the dispute, and then everybody's happy. And yeah, and like you said, the thousands of stories. Like I've done the same as you. I've gone online and just watched one or two, and Jeffrey goes to a craft fair.
Yeah, well, what sort of fair was it then?
Well, as you see, at a craft fair, people take along lots of things that they've made, then they sell them on the stalls.
Well, what sort of things?
All kinds of things, Bungle. Let's see, there was mugs and painting.
Is that the one where he buys Jane a necklace?
That's the one. Yeah.
That one came up for me. I mean, Rod, Jane and Freddie is sort of a menage a trois with an awful lot of kind of romantic history there. And then suddenly you've got Jeffrey, who, I mean, there's a point that I think you could cut the sexual tension with a knife between Jeffrey and Jane. Plus then Jeffrey's constantly bringing round sort of random women to sing songs or Dawn Next Door. I really think there was an awful, I mean, this is the 70s.
It's 70s, man. I've been asking everybody to do is kind of like paint us a picture of growing up. How did you take in TV as a kid? Were you like an avid, were you like me, where TV was life and sport was a sideline, or were you sort of more sporty and you would catch a little bit of TV? Tell us about where you grew up and things like that.
So I grew up in the absolute middle of nowhere on the Somerset Levels, so characterised by not only sort of complete lack of anything, also just a complete lack of landscape. There's not even any hills, basically. There is little to nothing. And when you talk to people about growing up in the countryside, and I think they imagine you've got a lovely little village pub and a little village shop. No, absolutely none of that. Absolutely nothing for miles around. And it was just, me and my sister. My parents both ran a small business making, but mostly selling wicker baskets. So that's kind of, which is something Somerset is famous for. It's willow growing or withies, and weaving baskets, cycle baskets, log baskets, storage baskets, stair baskets. So it was basically, me, my sister, and wicker was sort of the main setup. I did get massively into sport when I was a bit older. So for me, that was Euro 96. So I'd have been 8. And before that, no sport really. So it must have been just telly, Hot Wheels, and God, what else? Yeah, I mean, music, I guess, because we had my dad's was also a church organist, and we had a piano in the house. Although that went, so I don't know what happened. I don't know why they got rid of that. But so I must have watched loads of telly, like Play Days, and Rainbow, I think. But Rainbow's, it's something that kind of suits all audiences. Well, not all audiences, but it does. Obviously, it skews kind of low preschool and vaguely educational. But I think, again, it's watching some of the episodes as a, oh, God knows how old I am, 37 now, 38. Need to work that out. But it's genuinely funny now. So I think it's got that kind of family viewing. But yeah, we used to, I think we'd always have dinner together as a family at the dining table rather than sitting around the telly. But we did, it was like Saturday night was when we'd all gather around and watch telly. So that's I'm sure everyone's the same. Gladiators, Blind Date, a weird Chris Tarrant thing called Man Oh Man, which I remember, which probably wouldn't survive now. It was a bunch of blokes getting their tops off trying to impress women. That sort of era.
Yeah,
So that was like Saturday night
different type
takeaway.
of 70s.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of my experience of telly. And then also, I mean, my parents weren't big, they still aren't really, they're not film fans or really drama fans. They very much stick the telly on and watch what's on. But I used to remember kind of sneaking down in the way you do when you're supposed to be in bed, thinking that you're actually not noticed as you crawl into the room to watch whatever they're watching on telly. So again, God, probably peak practice or something. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of my memories of telly.
That's great. And it's surprising how everybody's got a very similar vision, of when they were younger. There was always a little bit of family time, and there was always the things that parents liked, and very rare that the parents liked what the kids wanted on. And I think that's quite different to now, actually, because, and I don't know, maybe it's me, and maybe because of my background, but like I'll quite happily sit and watch the majority of what my kids want to watch. If it's a show, if it's like YouTube stuff where it's just two guys screaming at you for 20 seconds and then another two guys screaming at you about something different for 20 seconds, I can't do it. But I've discovered new shows from what my children have been watching over the years,
Absolutely. I think my kids are like 1.5 and 5.5, and you do get that thing sometimes where like your fellow parents will say like, God, I won't name names of shows. We all know what the shows are. I can't stand this stuff on YouTube. The sort of stuff that's tooled to just make kids addicted to it, and bright colours, and we know the ones. And I'm just like, you do realise that you can control what your kid watches. Like, if your kid is watching this stuff, it sounds like yours are older, and and they're kind of they're curating what they watch for themselves. But yeah, I'm like, why would you? There is so much great TV out there now. I mean, like Bluey obviously is a all-time great show, but stuff like Jojo and Gran Gran, Maddie and Triggs, just stick this stuff on. And yeah, like you, I'm really happy to sit there and watch it. Plus all of the classic Disney, the newer Disney films, amazing. So many good values, brilliantly made, really creative. And I think people worry about screen time. And it's just about quality of screen time, isn't it?
It is 100%.
My daughter,
That's a really
her
good
imagination is sparked, and it's like your world is only as big as you can make it. And we're not blessed with, tons of money and able to go on great adventures and things all the time. We try our best, and not everything costs money. But TV is this window into exploring, completely different worlds. And it just sparked, my daughter will watch an episode of something. Pokemon's the one at the moment, which I love because I was massively into that as well. I've never really stopped being into it, and then now I can kind of, watch that with her.
Yeah, good.
Every drawing is Pokemon. Everything we watch on telly is Pokemon. I'm playing one of the new games on the Switch with my daughter, which I think counts as she's doing reading, maths, strategy. It's caring for animals when they're not sort
100%.
of murdering each other. Yeah. But again, I think there is, screen time can be such a positive thing and open up their worlds.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there is that fine line between, the screen time, what they're watching, what they shouldn't be watching, how do you create it. But it's a really good point what you said earlier about the bright colours and encouraging children to watch, because the majority of the American shows, that's exactly what they wanted to do in the 80s. They used those bright colours so they could sell those toys, which, a sucker. I think I bought quite a lot of them. I completely got sucked into that. But then when we come back to Rainbow, you feel from every fibre of the show that that's not what the intention was. The intention, very much like Sesame Street, very much that Jim Henson style of learning by storytelling, And so it's just think like the couple of episodes that I've watched, it's like I distinctly remember Rainbow broadening and my horizons and opening my world up to little things like I'm sure there was an episode about Diwali or like an Indian family that lived down the road, and they brought him in, and those were things that I never would have at that point in my life I hadn't interacted with, so and there were so many stories about about things that I had no interaction with, so it was very much a horizon broadening type of show.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is it's the tofu eating wokarati, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's a weird thing because that's only just been invented, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. I mean, I know, we'll go on to talk about the legacy, but I really think it was ahead of its time in that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe that is by dint of doing 1,000 episodes, and then you're like, I don't know, Diwali, but I don't think so. I think it is genuinely imbued with this sense of, well, let's talk about it now, right? So you've got these characters, and they all, I think, embody different types of children or different parts of, the psyche.
Wait a minute. I've got an idea. What bungle? Why don't we have our own craft fair? That's a good idea.
And yeah, if you're looking through it of the lens of now, Zippy is 100% ADHD. Absolutely. And he and there's points where, he's being naughty, can't control himself, he's really boastful, he's an absolute jerk. I mean, someone's put together a load of clips on YouTube of just Zippy being an absolute jerk, which is fantastic because they really don't hold back. I think a lot of that was improvised and really going over the top. But yeah, he's that. And there's a moment where George says, he's not naughty, he's just Zippy, which honestly I think is a representation that he can't help it, which we have more understanding of now. George is kind of very timid, very sensitive, and I don't want to put the label on and say, but people have questioned whether George is like a LGBT icon. It's rainbow. George is pink. Is George male or female? I don't know, but he's kind of very sensitive, and again, maybe it's a different side of all of us, or maybe it's representing some kids. Bungle is, I mean, not a big fan of Bungle. He's kind of bossy and
comes across as a very stroppy child, doesn't he? When he can't have his way.
Exactly. Yeah, he's not. I think there's a genuine animus between Bungle and Zippy. There is no love lost there. Like they really don't get on. And I love that. That's not really. I don't think that's ever massively addressed. I think they just plain don't like each other, and that's fine. Which is really nice to see in a kids show, because it is just bickering like kids. But as you say, there was the kind of the outside broadcast stuff, which is opening you up to stuff that you may not have seen. Again, it's making their lives wider because they're all in that house all the time.
Yeah.
But then you get stories from the picture book that is, again, it's all kind of related to the episode. You get songs. But yeah, I think there is, like, its heart is so in the right place. And I think it is that thing of like, we're all different and that's okay. And who knows when they were coming up with this stuff, whether we've seen tons of pitch decks in our time for here's a show and this is what it's going to be about, and it's all these points that are first and foremost it's a female-led story or it's a LGBT story or something, which is all fantastic. I don't know whether Rainbow, my feeling is that maybe they didn't think, well, let's do these things and address it this way. I think that's maybe just what came out naturally through the collection of people there. But as you say, Sesame Street was probably a touching point for that. But yeah, it really feels like there's so much heart in that show, and I think for anyone watching it, you would see a representation of yourself.
Yeah, that's how it hit. I think. Yeah, it's like you could guarantee that anybody watching it, you'd recognize yourself in one of the characters, or even if it's a small bit of yourself, because they never, as far as I know, they never implied what the situation was. It was Rainbow House. There was these two puppets and a person in a bear suit. Who was a bear, obviously wasn't a person in a bear suit, but was a bear. And then there was Jeffrey, who seemed like their carer. So he was the Muppet Babies nanny of the house. There were episodes when they would be in pajamas, which give the implication that they slept there. So it was never implied what the situation was, and quite frankly, it never needed to, because, and I mean, until this very minute, I've not actually questioned it, and I certainly never questioned it when I watched it. It was
that's what kids' TV is all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that. There is no setup. There's no pilot episode where we're establishing the world. So my daughter's ended up. It might even be the same VHSs that I was watching, but she goes to my parents' house. They have no limits on screen time or sugar, as you can imagine, and which is fine if they're listening. And she just comes back and watches Rainbow. So I was asked her, but she's like
a hippo, a Zippy, and Bungle, and it's like Zippy is like a very funny guy. If you open his mouth, that means he talks and it's Zip.
And if you want to shut him up, what do?
You just put it this way. And also Bungle, he's a bear and he also talks.
Yeah? What's he like?
Bungle has a hat on and he's always like, woo, woo, where am I? The hippo's name is George. And he's always a very funny hippo like this. What?
That's a good impression of George.
And also a man, he's real. Jeffrey's their friend.
Hippos are larger than bears. Doesn't matter. Zippy is a lemon, with a zip for a mouth. And yeah, it is that thing of kids' TV. You don't need to explain why anything is anything. You just go for it, and it is one of my bugbears working in this industry. When on the music side, a lot of it is, but stuff comes back. It's always commissioners, and they're like, "Oh, I think this is a bit unclear, or it's a bit advanced or complex for kids." And with music, like, "Oh, this music is a little bit out there for kids," and as in maybe it should just be some plinky plonky glockenspiels. And I'm like, it drives me mad, because I could find you studies that say when it comes to avant-garde music, kids are far more open-minded than adults, because we learn to be closed-minded. We're born open-minded.
Yes, that's right.
And we learn, to us, music from the East sounds out of tune, and to people in the East, music from the West sounds out of tune. Like, all of this stuff is kind of constructed. And again, I think the most out there music kids are like, yeah, great, I like it, and adults maybe less so. And again, when it comes to, like I said, until you're looking back in your adult mind, of course you're not questioning this setup, this house. You're not wondering exactly, do they sleep there? How did they end up here? It's sort of, it's got a kind of playgroup / orphanage vibe to it.
Yeah. It's got a almost like now you can look at other shows and go, it's got a bit of a Hey Dougie vibe going on,
Yeah.
And I'd be interested in speaking to Grant Orchard actually and asking him, was Rainbow any sort of inspiration on Hey Dougie, And but it's like, I don't care. When you really sit and think, well, I don't care. It was Rainbow. That's what Rainbow was.
But the show is so sort of, it's so improvised.
Yeah.
Obviously, they had script, but like the cast members were coming up with a lot of the concepts for the shows, and I think they were. It's absolute chaos. It's like bedlam, a lot of it. You've got a bloke in a bear suit trying to make stuff out of glue, trying to use scissors, and then you've got Zippy and George. So that's two puppeteers, but they've each got one hand. So there's a bit where Zippy accidentally. There's an episode where they're trying to find the TV remote because Bungle's lost it doing fitness with the fitness lady on TV, so he's been watching it. And then Jeffrey's watched some golf and wandered off outside, and then and Zippy is very affronted by the idea that he could have lost the remote control and is blaming it on everyone else. And then as it turns out, he accidentally put it in Dawn next door's basket when she was coming to drop some things off. I think she was going to the shops to buy them some dinner. Again, why? So are her and Jeffrey an item now, or what's going on? So but for that plot line to work, Zippy has to be helping her put her books in her basket and accidentally put the TV remote in there as well. But he's got one hand.
Yeah.
And it takes I'm sure in the script it was this sort of short little thing. It takes him a best part of a minute to put things in there. And he has to individually put the remote in because he hasn't got two hands to pick them up with. But and in terms of the chaos, they're constantly talking over each other.
Yeah.
But then you've got the bloke who does the voice of Zippy also does the voice of George. And when you realise that that's what's going on, you had two puppeteers. So I think Roy Skelton was...
That's right.
I think he's probably controlling Zippy, but he was doing the voices of Zippy and George live. So the puppeteering on George to be able to match what he was doing, again, because I think a lot of it was unscripted. Like it feels very kind of fluid, and they had a general thing they were going for, not necessarily specific lines. But they're kind of the voice acting, like the I know we're jumping around a bit here, but my God, Zippy's voice is so funny. Yeah. Again, you can look through past episodes and he's voiced by someone else, and it just doesn't quite work. Yeah. The classic Zippy voice is so funny. It made me laugh out loud several times watching it now because he's so belligerent. And again, I think the cast are probably trying to make each other laugh by going so far over the top. You get the sense sometimes. But then the voice of George is so such a brilliant, like an all-time. So he's doing two all-time brilliant voice performances and jumping from one to the other. Sometimes it's like really fast back and forth. And if you've ever, I read as we all do, read bedtime stories to my kids. I try and do all the voices. And we've just finished The Hobbit, so I've been jumping between the voices of 13 different dwarves, a hobbit, and a wizard. And forgetting who's who, and then you sometimes, and I'm not bad with accents, but when you're trying to jump quickly from Irish to Scottish to Welsh, I won't try my Welsh on you. But sometimes you just get this block and you can't do it. And he's just sort of going between George and Zippy, and they're so funny. Sometimes he's doing Zippo as well, Zippy's cousin. Who looks exactly the same, who I think in some episodes has a similar voice to Zippy. In early episodes, he's apparently French, although I haven't been able to find those. And there's one episode where he's got a baseball cap, and a shell suit. I think, and he's an American rapper. He talks in rhymes.
That's awesome.
Come on, zip out. Ta-da! Open your eyes. Hiya, guys. How are things? It's really me, and there are no strings. George, you're beginning to sound like an owl.
And you've got these sequences where you've got Zippy and Zippo and George all interacting with each other. It's so impressive, but it's so funny. But it's just that complete chaos, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what made it work. It felt, whatever the opposite of sterile is, it felt like
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Mm.
Yeah, I can imagine, again, it being in the 70s and it coming after, you know, a lot of those early TV shows like The Wooden Tops and the whole Watch with Mother era were quite twee now compared to, you know, so that comes along alongside Sesame Street, and it's colourful, it's chaotic, it's fun, it's fun, you know, and it's like, and but interesting litmus test was I had it on whilst my 2 8-year-old twins were sitting there playing their using their screen time, and you know the words that generally come out of their mouth with anything that I watch is cringe. Oh, it's cringe, Dad. But they what's this, Dad? Was are they puppets? Oh yeah, yeah. And you could just see them losing interest because it's slower than what they are used to now. You know,
Right, yeah.
it's like the pacing of children's television just seems to get faster and faster and faster. And
I was
we
hoping
were
you were
in
going to say they were really taken with it, and a little part of me's died inside now hearing that.
I know. I've not found not a single show yet where they've completely been hooked. You know, every now and again you'll catch them looking up and they'll question, but there's not. I was close with Muppet Babies because they do like
Right.
Muppets, and they did watch the new version of Muppet Babies. You know, so they were like, oh, it's Muppet Babies. I know these, but because they were 2D. It was just, I don't know, there was something about it that wasn't quite catching their attention, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. It is like a slower pace, but I think yeah. So it's at once chaotic, but it's also slower paced. I think then there's just moments where, like, literally characters going from A to B, and it's all kind of you know, it's like single shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, trying to edit that and getting rid of overlaps and things would have just been a nightmare. So it just sort of plays out in its own time.
Oh, but especially the time frame they were on as well, because I'm sure the show started playing twice a week, like Mondays and Wednesdays, and then it went to Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then at one point they was playing 5 days a week. So
Yeah.
the turnaround on these episodes must have been frantic.
But like we were saying, you can sometimes come across really weird episodes where, like the later ones, the relaunch had a terrifying bungle. But have you seen the original? So
Yeah, I was
originally,
looking at
bungle
photos
is
the
called
other day.
Rainbow. It's
Yeah,
a bloke who's not Jeffrey and a bear
That's,
called Rainbow that looks nothing like Bungle.
that's right. Yeah, it started with a guy called Dave Cook,
Yeah,
and
right.
he was the nanny, the person. He was basically the adult in the room for the first 2 years, and
Yeah.
then from what I've read, he went on to do something else, and they brought in Jeffrey Hayes, which
Yeah.
and also changed, made Bungle less nightmare fuel.
Hello. What do you think Bungle's doing? Here, hold still a minute. There. Now, Bungle, what's all this muddle?
What muddle? Where?
All this string. What are you doing?
Who, me?
Yes.
And I started to get into that, but it still took a few years before that, like you said earlier, they hit that sort of prime rainbow, peak rainbow, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, we get that with so many shows, don't we? Because then, I say it was Rod, Jane, and Matthew Corbett, I think.
Yeah,
and then,
that blew my mind.
Then Rod, Jane, and Roger, and then Rod, Jane, and Freddie, and then again. So Rod and Jane used to be married, then they got divorced somewhere in the middle of this. Then Freddie turns up, and then Jane gets married to Freddie, which I thought was all in my head, and turns out that's absolutely, it's like Fleetwood Mac or like ABBA, you know. so yeah, there's a lot going on, but again, it takes, that peak period of Rainbow. I think it started out as something more educational, and then again, so it reminds me of, like The Simpsons perhaps, but more, in Friends. I don't know if this is your era, but I grew up watching Friends, and the first few series as it went on, they realised that Ross was funny. So like the first couple of series, there's not much, and then they're suddenly like leaning into Ross takes tranquilizers and loses a sandwich. Ross gets his teeth whitened. Ross gets leather trousers, and it's just a series of things that they can make David Schwimmer do because it's really funny. And it's that thing that when shows have been, when they hit their golden period, and for Rainbow, this is decades of golden period, it's all working, the chemistry's there. You've found, you can relate it to sports. Your team suddenly goes through a period where you've got like a consistent squad and everyone seems to be getting on and it all just gels and it works and there's like an electricity there. And that just seemed to happen. So naturally, I think, they obviously found the stuff where Zippy's being really belligerent that works. It creates like a dynamism, and I think they just lent into that more and more and more. I imagine Zippy just gets more arrogant and belligerent as the show, as the years roll on. And again, like you feel like the cast are all playing up to it, trying to make each other laugh. And it really goes through that period. But it wouldn't work. I think, we have to talk about Jeffrey because I think it's one of the all-time great presenters. It's probably not a bold thing to say. I think anyone who's watched it would agree, because that is a hard gig. And it's like he's communicating with bloke in a bear suit, bunch of puppets. He's also, sometimes he addresses camera. Sometimes he just looks to camera in a way that I'm like, I don't think The Office was necessarily inspired by Rainbow, but there's an element that sometimes Zippy's just being a real so-and-so. And Jeffrey just gives a little side eye to camera, which is really funny.
Touch of the Magnum PA. Magnum used to turn the camera, just completely break that fourth wall and just lift the eyebrow. Jeffrey was
really
was the VIP star there.
But he's got to play it straight, And he was a proper actor, wasn't he? Zed Cars, and then he gets this role in Rainbow, but there's such sort of I think you see other people trying to do it, and it's really tough because it has to have genuine warmth, I think, and that comes across so much. And it's then kind of after Rainbow, I remember hearing as a kid, that Jeffrey was stacking shelves in Tesco or whatever it was, and it's like, this is really like newspapers trying to like a gotcha. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, he used to be a big deal, and it's like, no, he's not like he used to be like a big, star who was falling out of nightclubs or whatever. I can't imagine. He was just a real pro, and a really, really talented performer, and presenter that completely made the show. And it's
that's right. I think because he did it for so long and was, he was Jeffrey. I think that kind of hurt him a little then after the show finished, because there's no way he was going to go on much else and not be Jeffrey from Rainbow. Like, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I know that something, I'm happy to go into it now. The show sort of, when it was cancelled, obviously, like, those guys it was just sort of the start of conventions in the UK, not so much Comic-Con, but just, film and TV in general. And they'd be on those convention circuit for a time, whether it was Roger and Freddie, whether it was Jeffrey, whether it was Ron Skelton. And obviously the puppets, and I can understand why, but it was always Zippy and George that became the sort of the iconic puppets of the show. You never saw Bungle in much afterwards, you know. But I'm sure there was didn't Zippy and George release a dance track at some point?
I think so. I mean, that sort of stuff sort of makes me, I'm sure we're going to talk about the Twangers episode, but
Oh,
like,
yes.
I think I don't, because I think Jeffrey appeared in the Peter Kay Amarillo, thing,
That's right.
the music video where
That's
all
right.
sort of classic 80s icons were in.
He was never going to achieve stardom and celebrity in the US or anything like that, but in the UK, to a certain demographic, he was and always will be Jeffrey. And it's like
Yeah, on all of the YouTube videos that you look, there's you if you look through the comments, then I think 6 years ago, just a stream of, it's obviously that's when he passed away,
Yeah.
and there's a stream of love and messages to him. Like I say, I hope that he knew how beloved he was and how much love the audience had for him, because I just very much hope he did, because it really was a huge part of people's lives. Like you say,
Yeah.
5 days a week at some point.
Yeah, no, I read an interview the other day with, and somebody had said that they had been speaking to him in the supermarket he was working in, and they got into this discussion about it, but he was quite magnanimous about it. He was like, "Yeah, I did this for a period of time. I really enjoyed it, and I'm so touched that people feel." That they connected with me, and I have this deeper connection with the people who watch the show. And he was very philosophical about it. So there was, it
Yeah,
doesn't
I
seem
mean,
like there was any sort of ill will or bitterness about it.
no, in terms of to get philosophical, if you're a children's TV presenter, and I know he was an actor as well, and would have liked to have done more of that, but what are you aiming for? In terms of a legacy, I don't think you get much better than that.
Rainbows there. It's right up there. So in terms of obviously being a composer yourself, a professional composer, and very kindly composing the theme for my podcast, which I am eternally grateful for. How do you feel that Rainbow influenced your career path, if at all?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, because it had, I guess there was a representation of lots of musicians, and they wrote their own songs. I'm sure they collaborated with other songwriters, but not every episode had a song. Like I say, some had a story, some had like an OB section. We haven't even touched on the animations, which so trippy, and those. Yeah, they would often play them twice in an episode. And
Again,
the only
that Sesame Street vibe.
Yeah, but they obviously had access to like one disc of, well, not disc, sorry, tape, of sound effects. So there would just be a drawing that was being constructed, and you'd have like gunshots as a line comes on, and just like Swanee whistle and then these massive like synth hits, and it's just so strange and really transporting. But yeah, so you had that, and like I said, I did work in sound for at least 10 years, alongside getting into doing music. But yeah, I mean, it was a representation of people coming on and singing their own songs. Yeah, I mean, with the best will in the world, I wouldn't say Rod, Jane and Freddie, I don't think there's any songs of theirs that have stuck with me. Although going back through watching some episodes, there's a few that are bangers.
Oh yeah,
but
100%.
I wouldn't have remembered them. But these guys must have been banging out songs, every week, which is a lot. You really have to. Not all of them are going to be earworms.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would. Maybe that was part of it. This sort of representation of musicians, and it had that really 70s aesthetic, which through the theme tune as well. I mean, it's I'm sure you have, but if anyone hasn't, seek out the full version of the title theme of Rainbow, because I don't know how it would work as a song if you've never watched Rainbow before, but it's got this section that So if you ever listen to "Don't Fear the Reaper" by Blue Oyster
Yeah.
Cult, and
Yeah.
you and then suddenly there's a point in the song where it's just like a massive gear
Yeah.
shift, and it goes, So the theme to Rainbow's got a section where it goes really sort of Fairport Convention, or like a sort of more folksy Led Zeppelin or something section that really feels like really hippie and really out there, and then you've got that drum fill that's like EastEnders-y, that sort of kicks into the show. But yeah, I mean I love that title theme to Rainbow. It's so odd.
Yeah.
It's got a completely unprepared key change as you go into the main body of the show, where the flute theme's played as an electric guitar solo. Tick, again, don't question it.
Yeah.
It's got like kind of really clean, it might even be acoustic or a clean electric guitar, like really like funk with a sort of jazz flute solo, and then and these kind of Fleetwood Mac-y style vocals, and the recording's brilliant. It all sounds properly, it's got, obviously it's analog, I mean everything was then, but it's got a real sense of time, and I love that they stuck with that through.
Yeah.
So like I was watching it in the 90s, and music had come along a long way by then, but this was this sort of I think it was originally the band before even Rod, Jane and Freddie, was a band called Telltale, I think,
Right,
who were the
that's right.
original band on the show.
Yeah.
So it's this thing that they never got rid of, that was really carried like through from the 70s right the way through to
completely.
the ending of the show.
It felt like you lose Rainbow in a sense, and it was always, it's funny to me because obviously you don't get it at all now, but it was the different ITV areas and their logo and music that would play before the show, and obviously it was Thames Television that commissioned Rainbow. So whenever you see something on YouTube or anything like that, and I hear the Thames Television interstitial music play, it's always in my head, it's Rainbow that's going to follow it,
Yeah.
It hits that Anchorman jazz flute vibe, and we're into Rainbow, and I totally get what you mean about if you listen to the whole track, it's like you don't get it at first, it pulls a regular and goes in a completely different vibe, like it's really cool.
But it sounds kind of chaotic, semi-improvised, really fun, full of colour. So it's perfect for the show. Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier about the animations, and I should have mentioned it earlier, but all the animations were done by Cosgrove Hall, who obviously now known for Danger Mouse and Count Duckula, and countless other classic kids TV shows that we'll be getting into at some point. But so that hopefully segues now into basically the legacy of Rainbow. So it was a constant for years, as we said. So from 1972 to 1992, it got cancelled, and there was a national campaign to bring it back. It went full newspaper campaign, and then a reboot of the show was announced by a company called Tetra, and that debuted on CITV on the 10th of January 1994, and it was not Rainbow, which I don't understand how anybody looked at Rainbow, thought we want Rainbow back, but let's bring it back in a completely different concept. So
was it cancelled? It wasn't cancelled because it was unpopular. Am I right in saying it was just to do with
they lost Thames TV lost the network distribution rights to Carlton TV, and Carlton didn't want to take on the expense, so they just cut it. So
how many other shows can you say that about, that even when it was cancelled after the best part of 30 years, it was still really popular?
Exactly, and like to my mind, I can think of maybe 2-3 shows that have had that. It's been cancelled, or it's going to be cancelled. Having that vibe, Family Guy is the one that sticks out, but obviously not been running for as long. Not such an institution as Rainbow. But
Yeah, I mean, you get the thing sometimes when there's campaigns to bring something back. I mean, going back to talking about living in the middle of nowhere, so many country pubs shutting down. I mean, it's the same if it's a TV show or a country pub. The point is, if it's shutting down because no one is going there or watching it,
yeah,
then you can have all the campaigns you like, but you'd be, I've known local pubs that there's people have been like, save our pub, and the publicans have gone, if you wanted to save it that much, like, come here, because I don't even know who you are. And it's the same, like there's certain TV shows that I think people think they don't like the idea of it being cancelled, so this should still exist. I'm not going to watch it myself. But when it comes to Rainbow, I don't think it was that at all. I think it must have genuinely been people going, we want to continue, like, why are you getting rid of this? We're still really enjoying it. We're still watching it. And the viewing figures were still high.
Yeah, it was a funny, and back then when there were a lot more networks, like Time Teas and London Weekend Television, and and it surprised me actually the way that this all sort of fell out, because something you touched on earlier about it finding its audience. That doesn't happen. I would say that doesn't happen at all these days. I think it's very rare now that a show is given any time to find its audience. If a show hasn't found its audience by 4 or 5 episodes in, cancel it, move on to the next one. We've seen it. We see it on the streaming platforms all the time. We've worked on shows where it's just not been given a chance. It's just like, there we are, we'll burp it all out onto a streaming channel, and then you can just rewatch them. We can't be asked to make any more.
Well,
And
I suppose those are maybe two slightly different things. One of them is, and again, we've both worked on shows where I'm like, if this was going on, at 4 o'clock on CITV, on ITV, or on CBBC, or it had that like Simpsons slot at 6 o'clock or whatever it was, if it was on and then people were watching the TV because it was on, it would be massive. But of course, we don't have that now. So stuff goes on streaming platforms, some of which full of adverts that make it a hard sell for anyone to want to sit and watch it. I suppose that's finding your audience, and the other thing is kind of the show finding its groove.
That's a good
so
point.
That's the show kind of developing and changing. And again, it's that little thing now. It's what people talk about when they talk about putting things on YouTube now, where you can see who's switching off after a certain amount of time, and the audiences are relating to this character. Let's do more with them. In the world of YouTube, you can do that instantaneously. Whereas with Rainbow, I think it must have been over the course of years, like, people like this, let's do more of this. Just slowly growing in that way.
That the new show, the first reboot of it, that was the one where it was a toy shop, wasn't it? There was no Jeffrey, and it was the two puppets and Bungle, and they worked for someone who you never saw.
An elephant? No, silly. An elephant wouldn't fit in here.
Zippy was joking, George.
Was he? Oh.
Yes, and anyway, we're busy.
Are you?
It was, it wasn't Rainbow. It was like the Frasier to Rainbow's Cheers, but not as funny and not as popular. And I think it lasted.
There's probably better examples of that, right?
Yeah.
It's probably the Joey to Friends rather than Frasier, which was very successful.
I quite like Joey, but it was it just, again, it didn't resonate with audiences, whether because it was too different, such a departure. No Jeffrey.
Theme tune, not weird jazz flute. Yeah.
Because I remember Rod, Jane, and Freddie going and doing their own TV show, didn't they? That was
I tried rewatching some of that. That's maybe not stood up as well, I don't think. But
But it was, but then so they cancelled this one, and then they did another reboot, Tetra Films, sorry, again. This time with HTV, and they reworked it so that it was closer in format to the original Rainbow. But they had a different person come in as Jeff, as in the Jeffrey role.
Rainbow Days.
That's the one with the really creepy bungle.
Right.
That's, yeah, I
No,
remember
I've
that.
not
'Cause
seen
again,
any of this.
I remember that coming on TV, and it is genuinely like someone sort of kidnapped Bungle, locked him in a crate somewhere, and tried to crawled into his skin. Absolutely terrifying. And like, why? Why would you do that? Like, I don't know. Was it someone? You see, like that Cristiano Ronaldo statue that's terrible,
Yes,
or that
yes.
woman who, in that nun who accidentally painted over. Like a Renaissance painting
I
or something
remember
and
that.
tried to recreate it. I wonder if they did commission someone to make Bungle again exactly as he was, and that's what they ended up with, and
Yeah.
everyone had to sort of go with it. I wouldn't be surprised.
That didn't do so well. It lasted a little bit longer than the first reboot, but then they cancelled it. And like I said, this would have been just as I was starting in art college, I think. So Rainbow was, it just wasn't Rainbow, and it wasn't something that I was interested in watching. But obviously now as I've got older and started to look into it, it's a bit mind-boggling, really. And I wonder what the thinking behind it is. It's like we stopped Rainbow, people wanted Rainbow back, so let's make something completely different, call it Rainbow, and all it's got is one or two characters from the show. Is kind of,
I wonder if Jeffrey turned them down
yeah, that's
trying
interesting,
to pursue
actually.
acting, or whether they thought we want a sort of more modern presenter
Yeah.
in some way. I'm not
I
sure.
almost feel like it's the latter, personally, but I
Hmm.
would hope that they'd asked him, but it's, yeah, it leaves a little bit of, I mean, the legacy of Rainbow, like I said, iconic British show, and the fact that it's the first one that came to that you said there was no hesitation. But I want to talk about Rainbow. It's left that feeling in people. That's about as good as you want from a children's TV show. But
No,
it
exactly.
leaves a
I
little bit
mean,
of a
like I
bitter
had
taste.
others. Yeah, I had other things that came to mind that would be that I think are great or interesting. Bodger and Badger was one.
Class.
Similar amount of chaos. I think Penny Crayon is really due a reboot for the modern age. I think that would be
Yes.
great. There were tons of things like that, but I feel like I would have been not being true to myself to not go with Rainbow, because that is the one that, like you say, you watch the old sort of like interstitials and it just completely transports you back.
Yes. Yeah.
That show, yeah, and I don't think any of the other ones do in the same way, really.
No, funny enough, I've had this discussion a couple of times now about the shows that can do that to you. And it's not all of them. And mostly it's the theme tune that gets you first. You can hear a character's voice, and it can do it, but it's like any piece of good music, it can transport you back to a time like that Anton Ego feeling in Ratatouille. It just goes, "Zoop," and you're there, and you can see the wallpaper in your nan's house where you were watching it, or whatever.
Totally.
And Rainbow's theme tune does that for me every time.
Yeah, I think we can chat about theme tunes. I think it's is great. I mean, I really miss theme tunes
Yeah.
across the board. I think
Yeah.
I work in kind of documentary. I've done a lot on factual as well, and I think it's a real shame that we've lost even in films, we've lost people doing big themes,
Yeah.
apart from when it's rebooting something or bringing something back, in which case the audience love those big themes to be brought back. It's the same with like factual telly. If you're rebooting a classic show, then people want that original theme. We've seen it with Gladiators. And I'm like, right, so people love that stuff. People hate pre-title sequences. Everything now is a pre-title sequence in a factual show. Here's what you're about to watch, and then before the break, here's what you're going to watch after the break, and here's what you've just watched, with voiceover over it, and there's no chance to hear the theme tune. Whereas I was, growing up with Changing Rooms and Animal Hospital, and the less said about that, the better. But Ground Force and shows like this. It just had these brilliant themes. All of the kind of BBC ones that would have been library music that they'd stuck on your grandstands and your match of the days, which they have sort of remained in sports. But anyway, I'm just really glad that kids TV, even now, for the most part, let's have a theme tune, and I'm glad that legacy is going to continue, because it's nice to think of your own kids in 30 years time, if the planet hasn't been destroyed or taken over by the robots, that they will hear the theme tune to Jojo and Gran Gran or something and be transported back in that way.
Yeah, that's 100%. I mean, I blame 24, because that was always that was the first show that I consistently remember there not being a theme tune to, just that noise, and then it was lost, and then all those shows, I mean, when you think back to the Night Riders and the A-Teams and the Street Talks and the Airwolves, oh my God, those themes were iconic, and now it's just music, it's just noise and a lot of those sort of things. But
it's funny actually. You've the ones you've highlighted, 24 and Lost, have got brilliant scores, and memorable scores. But you're right, no sort of title sequence. Again, I think it's nice that it's coming back in drama now with stuff like The Crown, or with Shogun was brilliant. I think there's tons that you could think of, and again, don't skip the titles. Don't skip the titles. You want to be transported into the world of that show. You know, that's your 30 seconds. I mean, I've just been rewatching The Sopranos, and maybe that. I mean, I love that title sequence. It's maybe a bit long, when you're binging episodes. But again, that's your time to be. Yeah, it's a little break.
Prepare
it's your time
yourself.
To be transported. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same with credits in the cinema, though. I find it. Maybe it's the composer thing. Of all the best stuff that you couldn't actually get into the film, you get to just stick in the credits.
Yeah.
But score wise, but for me, it's that moment of, right, I've just watched this amazing thing. Now I get a chance to sit here and think about it.
Yeah, decompress.
And if I've been in floods of tears, a chance to make myself look vaguely respectable again. And to digest what you've just seen. I find it very strange. I was just watching Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind at the Beacon. In Bristol, and it's like the second it comes on, directed by Michel Gondry, everyone's just like, right, see you later, wander off, and I don't get it. And again, for me, that's what a theme tune is, and that's what a credit sequence is in TV. It's your chance to digest and process, and also kind of enter or leave the world that these mad, completely different worlds, and next you'll get the Poddington Peas or the Treacle People or something, and again, it's a completely different setup.
So go on then. So this is the point where we segue into the theme tunes. Have you got a favourite? Is it Rainbow? And if not, what would be in your top 3?
So you asked me for top 3, and I spent no time thinking about it. Rainbow didn't quite make it, but I was thinking about it last night, and I woke up this morning. I thought I'll give it a bit more thought, and it's just one of those things where, nope, that was exactly right. I didn't miss any.
Brilliant.
My instinctive reaction. So I've got. I mean, Gladiators is number 3 for me, and it's great. I'm so glad when they relaunched it, they kept the same theme tune. Bit annoyed they changed the music for the Eliminator, because that was great and had a screaming guitar solo. But I'll give them that, because they brought it back. And again, if you were making a new program now, if you were launching Gladiators now, no chance in a million years you would have that title theme.
Yeah.
But for me, it's nostalgia. But for my daughter, it's not, and she still loves it. I think it just goes to show, do a big title theme, make someone sing about gladiators.
Yes.
It's great. And it's got that kind of rock. I mean, I'm just prog rock and prog metal. I think probably because of Gladiators and probably my number 1 as well. But yeah, Gladiators is 3, and I can't decide between the top 2. One of them's Thomas the Tank Engine, which is an absolute, it's a frankly ridiculous piece of music. You get these, my Instagram will be showing me, I've got a love-hate relationship with kind of musicologists because who you get on Instagram, because it's like it's influencer musicologists, and they're really annoying and American-y, and they're kind of and they boil stuff down in a way that's not quite right. But to give him his due, I saw a guy break down Thomas the Tank Engine recently, more from the harmony point of view.
Right.
So these chords should not go together whatsoever. Completely unprepared key changes, jumping around, from key to key within the same thing. This mad kind of huge diminished rundown in the middle of it, and that's without the kind of building it on synthesizers and old room of old pianos and steam sounds making the percussion. It's just an absolute piece of, it's unadulterated genius. It shouldn't work in any sense. And there's been loads of remixes of the Thomas the Tank Engine theme where they've put on like Biggie Smalls and stuff, and there's a reason it works. And all the comments are always like, why does this slap so hard? Why does this go so hard? And there's something about the groove of Thomas the Tank Engine. I don't know what it is. You cannot help but nod your head to it. It's brilliant. So I think that might be my number one, but it's on a different day it would be Pokemon, which was, that's my other really transporting one.
Wow.
That is a brilliant piece of music. It's really proggy. I love the guitar riffs. It's really well constructed, brilliant backing vocals, and similar to Rainbow, listen to the full version because there's an excellent guitar solo in there.
Amazing.
So yeah, I'm saying 3 is Gladiators, and it's between
you can go
Pokemon
joint
and
one if you want. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, on a different day. It's whichever ones I've listened to the most recently.
That's amazing. So Pokemon is an odd one for me because I completely missed it. It just came out as I was going out with my friends, going out more, and so it was just one I never caught and I've never gotten into. But the theme tune to it, I know it, and it is amazing for a kids' TV show. It's an amazing theme tune. Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many series of it now because my daughter's just got into it, by which I mean I've just got my daughter into it, but she loves it. And my wife's the same as you. It completely passed her by.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It's just...
And so we're having these conversations, me and my daughter, and my wife is she's like, you need to give me like a cheat sheet for what the hell you're talking about. I have no idea. Because it's a completely different language. But yeah, they've had various theme tunes then over the years. The one series she's watching at the moment, which I think is about 10 years old, is a new version of that same theme, which is it's not as good. There's a few things that I miss, but it's pretty much the same. But other series have had different title themes, but I'm pleased to say a lot of them are pretty good as well. Like it comes on, you're like, oh, what? This is, I don't know, Pokemon Black and White or Pokemon Sun and Moon or something that's got a different title theme. But you give it a few episodes and you're like, yeah, do you know what? This is good. I would prefer it to always be the same, but they've got a good, there's a good legacy of those themes there. Again, it's just one of those, it genuinely, it's one of those things, it's nostalgic, but it is genuinely a brilliant piece of music. I don't expect you to, as a Welshman, believe this, but I've got the same thing with Three Lions, the football song that's completely overused, completely overdone.
That's absolutely fine.
People don't get it. People completely miss the irony in it and everything. But I'm like,
as a Welshman, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that song. As you know, it's just a good, well-written, catchy theme. Doesn't matter that it's about English football. It's just
exactly. And I think that's the thing with the Pokemon theme. You could strip away all of the nostalgia from it and all of my memories of that, and strip away everything Pokemon about it, and it's still a really good piece of music.
Yeah. Okay. It's in a similar vein with the Masters of the Universe. For me, He-Man. It's like that. I was very young. I would have been like 7, 8, something like that. and it's catchy. It's like it sucked you into the show. There's a little bit of narration over the top of it, to tell you who was who, and again, and so whenever I hear it, that's the one that takes me right back, and then it's like so to the point that when there's the film come in, there was the film, they never used the theme tune. As a young child, that killed me. Well, why aren't they using the theme tune?
Yeah.
And then when Kevin Smith rebooted it recently on Netflix with the two, obviously like a completely different theme tune, but the theme tune suited that show. Like
Yeah.
it's He-Man. It's not my He-Man, but it's quite close to it. But obviously, I'm of an age now where I don't get that territorial about it. But that original Master of the Universe theme tune gives me the same feeling.
Yeah, I think without getting too sort of I don't know what the word is, self referential, I suppose. I do, if I'm writing a theme tune for a bit of kids TV, I've always got that in the back of my head. You've got such a high standard to hit,
Yeah,
but also
that's
what
good.
an opportunity,
Yeah.
to go, I get to write something that, if it works, or even if it becomes just a cult hit that some people liked, there
Yeah.
will be people who've got this stuck somewhere in the recesses of their head until the day
Yes.
they
Yeah.
die, in a way
Yeah.
that you don't with many other things.
Yeah, 100%. And as an animator, it's a very similar feeling when you're working on it. Any sort of publicly consumed media, whether it's TV or whether it's games or anything, you've got an opportunity to hopefully impact on someone the way that these shows impacted on us when we were younger, and that's the one thing I love about my job.
Yeah, I think working in the industry is something that is very easy to forget, that you can have this impact on people, that you will have this impact on
Yeah.
people. And again, it's sometimes when you get a bit of pushback, usually from commissioners that are like, "I'm not sure, this is a bit out there." It is something that I'll try and fight for. If I think that I don't want to take the rough edges off of something, or that I want to make it a little bit out there, because all of the best stuff is a bit weird. It's a bit out there, isn't it? Like, and it's until it, and you just don't realize, but then becomes part of you, and then you ignore it. It's just completely natural. The
Yeah.
same way we were talking about, and Rainbow. Yeah, it's a bear and a hippo, and like for the most part, the lemon thing with the zip and the hippo hang out outside the window looking into the house. Why do they do that? Dunno. You don't question it. Like
Yeah.
the Beatles. Is that a good band name? No, it's terrible. What you've taken, it's like a beetle, like an insect, but you've made it beat, like a drum beat. Like, how many times have you actually analysed that? You don't, because it's the Beatles. That's just the name of the band.
Yeah.
What's the Beatles? It's the Beatles. So yeah, as soon as something becomes part of you, or that you get attached to it, you completely ignore all of that other stuff. So I
Yeah.
think that's why, and again, it's your opportunity. If it's a title theme, people are going to hear this.
Yeah.
No one's not going to watch it again because they don't like the title theme. So you've got
Yeah.
that chance to go.
Yeah.
So if someone listens to this once and they like it, but then it gets a bit tired because it's a bit flat and it's a bit boring and it's a bit easy. No, someone's going to be listening to this hopefully, hundreds of times. Let's put some depth in it. Let's challenge people a little bit with it,
that's
and I
the
think that's the stuff we all love that's done
Yeah.
that.
Oh, well, Matt, we're going to have to wrap it up there, but that was brilliant. And hopefully this won't be the only show you guest on. I've got a feeling that we can get some other shows out of you as well.
Yeah, I've probably got a few, but yeah, none that have got that same, I guess, growing up with that show. It felt like it was always there, and and I watch episodes now, and it makes me laugh out loud. It's really, really funny, and yeah, and it's sort of definitely, there's not a time in my life where it's not been a part of me. So it's been really nice to go back and revisit it.
Amazing. That's a hell of a legacy. I really think, the people who make this show, they should really be proud of what they produced.
Absolutely, yeah. I would kill to go. I don't know. I would love to go back now and be on set during, you know, during that, and just seeing how they put it together, you know, and to say like, guys, you're doing an amazing job, obviously.
Can you imagine telling them then, you know, how this would still be seen in such a positive light, like 30 odd, 40 odd years down the line, you know?
Like I say, you just hope that people know, but you can't know, you know. All you can do, I suppose, is like we do in our careers when you're working on something, remember how, which is why it's nice doing this, remember how much of us is made up of those shows that we watched. And then when we're making shows for other people, just to have that in the back of our heads that we're trying to achieve the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
You can never really know the influence that it has on people, but you can know the influence other shows have had on you.
Yeah, well, what a way to end it. Thank you, Matt. And that's all for today's trip down memory lane. Massive thanks to Matt for guesting, and also to you for joining us. Don't forget, if you enjoyed today's episode, hit that follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode of the show. We've got more nostalgia, fun facts, and deep dives coming your way every week. Please come and join the Facebook community group. I add additional information, upcoming videos, further info on the shows we talk about. There'll be some competitions coming up soon for merch. Links will be in the show description. Until next time, take care, and I'll catch you on the next trip through the square window.